let your crazy come out just a little bit. You don't have to hide it, you can't fight it, you're an animal. Everybody got a wild side. Everybody got a wild side. Let's get it up, get it up. Everybody got a wild side.
Hello, welcome to Madame After Midnight. This is a podcast where we talk about life and its many pursuits of sustainable happiness. I'm your host, Madame Donut. Now, I always come with a warning. As you know, you've heard this before. Sometimes I talk about things that make me hungry or horny, so please forgive me. If the kids are not sleeping, that's on you, because this is After Midnight after all. Tonight, my guests, I'm very excited. I've been wanting to catch up with them for a while now. Finally, they made it here to Wailuku. Please welcome everybody, the duo behind Nilo's, the only chef table only restaurant on Maui. Yay, come on in, you guys. And chef with his double drink. Hi, how are you?
Good to see you.
Thanks, chef. Okay, is this your only day off? Technically.
No.
Okay.
Well,
shoot.
kind of.
I almost felt bad. I was like, I'm like, come on, hang out with me on a Monday night.
I guess for Jeremy, it is kind of his only day
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
For me, I have a little.
An
I have
extra,
a
an
couple
extra
extra days off.
when you're tending to the kids.
Right.
But this is fun.
Yeah, there's no days off.
Never
in our
really.
lives.
Yeah. No, but I love, like, when I was talking to you, I was like, hey, can you come? And I was like, we can do it earlier, whatever works for you. And you're like, no, late's good because
Late's
the kids,
good.
Yeah.
you put
Sleeping.
the kids to
Yeah.
sleep already. That's so
Yes.
awesome. They don't even know you're here.
They do. They know.
So how's everything at Nilo's? And
Nilos is going good. We are pretty steady, busy.
steady and busy. Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you feel like it's getting busy? I mean, season's coming up too. So, what's the like? Do you
Seasons
feel
are kind
that?
of thrown off right now with like COVID. I feel since COVID, I
Yeah.
feel like the seasons
not
are
the real
like,
season
No,
the way it
no.
used
What do
to
you
be.
think?
I think it's been very difficult over the last, 18 months, 24 months to figure out a rhythm to what's going on due to COVID.
Yeah.
The very first few months of 2021 were fairly slow, and then all of a sudden it was like this nuclear
crazy
bomb went off,
Yeah.
and
Everyone got crazy
and
and
it
go, we
was
can travel.
it
Yeah.
was insane from April until the end of the year, and it started to slow down, at least for us, a little bit. And I think based on what I've heard from my restaurant friends, pretty similar. And then this year, I think it's just been steadily busy throughout the year, more in line with our usual kind of business levels and routines. It seems like it's finally starting to settle back into
how it used to be
pre-COVID.
pre-COVID.
Yeah, to pre-COVID. So we tend to have a little bit different seasons than other folks due to the type of business, given that we're really high end and that we tend to not attract much in the way of families or children in the restaurant.
Right.
So
And they're not in the resort, so the resort
Yeah.
type of vacationers
Yeah.
probably don't easily find you. Okay, so let's talk about Nilo's real quick. Tell us about Nilo's. How did you come up with the name? Does it mean anything in particular? I'm sure it does, but how did you choose it, and what was the concept behind it? Because we were talking about you're the only chef's table.
all chef's table
all chef's
tasting
table.
menu
I was trying
nightly
to,
restaurant.
I was trying to
yeah.
figure out how to say that. Like
Yeah.
chef's only only.
It's kind of a mouthful. No, there's other people that have chef's tables, and there's other people that have tasting menus. But I believe that we're the only restaurant on the island that is a chef's table only, tasting menu only restaurant every day that we're open. Now that did change a little bit during COVID. We had done, we were trying to stay alive like everybody else, and we were pivoting and getting creative. But as soon as things kind of went quasi back to normal, we went back to doing what we've always done. So the name is our last name backwards. So Solon.
Oh my
S-O-L.
God, I'm so stupid. How come I never figured that out?
Right.
didn't
No,
know?
a lot of people ask, so don't feel
You
bad.
knew that.
I just was just thinking it's like, I don't know, it's like sounded Greek or something.
Yeah, it is.
Totally, it is Greek.
It
It is a Greek
Nylos
word,
is
yeah.
a Greek word. Or,
Okay, so I'm not that crazy, but I
When
thought
we were
it was like-
opening, people were like, "Oh man, you're opening the
Calling,
Greek
asking,
restaurant.
yeah,
We're so
what type of Greek food do
psyched.
you
We're
guys
gonna get
serve?"
a gyros, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna have some tzatziki." And I'm like, "Yeah, no."
Oh my god, that's so funny to hear it. Like, I seriously did not know this before the show. This is like news to me. I wanted to ask that, but like, I don't know why I never asked you.
People
I
get
didn't
so
go.
get creative sometimes. They're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, we thought it was New York and Los Angeles together.
Yeah.
We thought we're like the two cities that you guys are from." I'm like, "No."
Oh, that
I'm
almost
like,
kinda
"That-
makes sense, yeah.
they're right.
New York,
Nylos,
Los Angeles. Yeah.
Yeah,
There
okay,
was
so
a
it's
restaurant
pretty
group that had that. There was a like, but they called it Nilo. There's also a Nilo hotel chain, and they're like I think based out of Dallas. I know they've got locations in Texas, but it's NYLO.
And are they Greek inspired? Or
No,
not really. It's just like-
no, I don't know what Nilo means for them.
Yeah.
But
I'm so glad I asked.
we knew we were kind of doing a signature restaurant, and to name it our exact name didn't seem a little bit too forward.
Right.
So we opted to change it around a little bit. And it's also a good conversation piece.
Yes,
People ask. It's
absolutely.
one of the first things people ask. Well, how did you get the name? And
Yeah.
oh, it's cool. And then you tell them like, oh, I should have known.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel.
Yeah, totally.
Funny story is that many years ago, I think it was like 10 years ago, we had I think it was like our first cat. We adopted a cat 10 years ago, and we were like throwing around names. And we were like, he always talked about having a restaurant and naming the restaurant Nylos.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I was like, oh, we're never going to open a restaurant. Didn't think it was in the cards. And then we had a cat, and we named the cat Nylos. So when we opened the restaurant, we told the kids that we were going to name the restaurant Nylos. They're like, oh, how nice of you guys. Your name
Name
is
it after
To honor the cat.
to
Yeah,
honor
the
the
cat
cat.
died. Yeah, and
I
we
love
have 10 cats.
What?
He's like
Like,
vegan
for-
people.
like-
they gotta announce it to everyone
you
that
have
they're
10,
vegan. You
like,
gotta announce to everyone that you have 10 cats. You're like, hi, my name is Jeremy. I have 10
Don't
cats.
insult vegans on the food show.
Oh, I'm not insulting
really have 10 cats
anyone.
currently?
10
Yes,
cats
we have
and
10
one dog.
cats.
Holy sorry.
As well
that's
as-
Holy
great.
shit, yes, I
Holy
know.
shit. How,
As
that's
well as 4 children, yeah.
No, it's a lot.
Yeah,
of
they're
cats,
awesome.
But we
They're
love
awesome.
Cats.
Yeah, we love them.
That is so funny.
Crazy. There's a lot of love in our home.
Yeah. As you know, I'm going away, and when I come back, who knows? I'm probably gonna. I don't know about 10 cats, maybe 3 at the most.
Start with one.
Start with one.
Maybe 2 so they can keep each other
Yeah.
company.
Actually, I
Yes.
had cats, feral cats that made babies and
Oh.
and gave birth in my lanai. So I actually had babies running around my lanai for a while, and then they got tired, and then
They
I
leave.
don't know,
Yeah, they
They
leave.
found a new home or something. Especially when I redid my lanai. But anyways, back to Nilo. Sorry.
Yes.
So you're the only, basically, like chef's tasting menu, only restaurant on Maui. And how did you realize that you wanted to do this? Because it's kind of obviously it's so unique on Maui, and I always feel that. Obviously we do, but when I think about it, I feel like Maui sometimes is not conducive for this kind of concept because there's just not enough people. We're talking about numbers coming
Yeah.
in, and it's like it's gutsy, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of balls, really, to open a restaurant like that because, as we know, we want our customers think that they think most of the time that they know what they want. Half the time they don't really.
Right.
I'm saying it. I'm saying it in public because people have an idea of how it is to dine, and a lot of times I feel like people are trained to thinking that they are right when they're the customers, right? Like for
Oh
most
well,
of us,
that's how the industry has.
Yeah,
We have trained our guests to believe that because that story is old as dirt.
Yeah.
That the customer is always right.
Yeah.
But and there's maybe a bit of truth to that, but we believe that the folks that are in our restaurant are our guests, not our customers.
Yeah.
So that may
I
make a
do.
difference.
I agree.
And not to say that they're not right. I think that a lot of times they are, but we treat them as guests, and I think that we don't have to worry about them as customers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
In a way, but how we came up with it, well, we have more guts than we have brains, and to be really honest, we knew we wanted to do something. We took a home equity line out on our house, and we had that line for over a year, about a year. and we were paying the note on that line while looking for a space. And I was negotiating a couple of different leases in Lahaina to do drastically different concepts. I wanted to do like a beer and shot joint, to be honest with you, and fried food. That's what I was desperately trying to put together. And I just couldn't, the guy who I was negotiating a lease with is, for lack of a better word, a jerk off. And I couldn't get him to come my way. And every day it seemed like he was, and then it's like time to sign, and there was a new story or a new wrinkle to the deal. So I just couldn't get the deal closed. And the end of October in 2016, and we were coming down the hill, coming down Baldwin, and I always have like my eyes peeled, and I don't know how I saw the sign because it was like on an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. Yeah. That's it.
And
like
it was
this big.
nighttime too.
Yeah, it was dusk, and I saw the sign. It's like restaurant for sale, and I stopped the minivan. And I got out of the car and I looked in, and I was like, wow, a lot of what is currently in the restaurant right now, in terms of the aesthetics, were there, like the marble bar and everything. And I was like, wow, this looks like business plan number 5, the high end like fine dining concept. I think you could do like a chef's tasting menu place in here.
What was it before?
It was this place called, well, for many years it was a vegan place called Fresh Mint. It was a Thai vegan place, and it was good, except that it was like super dirty, and it was, run by folks for many years who kind of didn't really clean the place up that well, but were good with flavors.
Yeah.
And then folks bought the building, and those folks who bought the building kind of went to those people and were like, look, you're going to have to, before we give you another lease, we're going to have you clean the place up and everything else. You're going to put some money into it, so that's going to be part of the lease. And they were like, no, we're not doing that, so we'll just leave. So then those folks, literally, who bought the building, decided they were going to do something themselves.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of money into the build out and opened up as a place called North Shore Bakery in Delhi that was literally in business for 60, maybe 90 days. That's it.
Wow.
And they just didn't have any industry experience.
Yeah.
And nice people, for sure, the best people, but no industry experience. And they put it up for sale. And a few months later, we came along and saw it. And I made a phone call to the number on that 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and literally the guy picked up, and he's like, oh, you want to come in and see it? I was like, well, I just saw it. He's like, oh, come in, take a look tomorrow. And I came in, I took a look, and we had a deal in like 36 hours. And then signed the lease, and like a week after that, get the money, the checks all together, all that stuff. And started getting the whole thing together. So I wanted to be open by the end of 2016, but we were having issues with, as always with everybody, with the liquor license. And so we didn't get all that settled until the end of January of 2016, and we opened up January 2017. January 31st of 2017. So as Nilos, and the concept that we're doing, it was a course less. It was 5 courses for $85 when we opened up.
And this whole time, you were saying that you still live in the West Side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you were driving back and forth. I mean, obviously, you sleep at the restaurant.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Part of the deal of taking that space was there's a house behind the restaurant, which we now live in and have for the last 3 years, but we were supposed to get
Moved in there.
pretty soon after, or right around the time we were taking the restaurant space. And it never came to fruition. There were some people in there. It was difficult for the landlords to get the people that were in there out. And then when they went in there and finally took a look around, the place was completely destroyed. And they had to do a lot of work on it to get it back into working order again.
So how long did it take before you moved into the house?
Like almost 3 years.
3 years
Yeah.
that you were driving.
And I slept in there a lot.
Yeah.
And it was horribly stressful. It put a lot of strain on our relationship and my relationship with the kids, and it was not easy. We have earned what we've gotten. That's for sure.
Like I was telling you guys, where you're sitting right now, that's basically where we had our futon. We just laid it down there because we lived in Maui Meadows, and who falls asleep on a Harley? Me. because I'm so tired. When the red light on highway and Pilani Highway, red light, I kind of chill a little bit, and then before you know it, cars behind me are honking at me because I'm asleep on the bike.
Oh my God.
That's
You know?
terrifying.
God,
That's
that
crazy.
is terrifying.
That's when I realized like I can't even make it home. And then my ex-husband, he would drive home to sleep because we'd take turns, but
Yeah.
he couldn't wake up.
Oh.
So I would have to drive there anyways to wake him up because no matter how many times I would call him, he can't wake up because that's how tired you are.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
like you're saying, you passed out
Absolutely.
at the restaurant.
Absolutely.
And that's what we had to do. And you know, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you about talk to you on this podcast is because we're talking about business and life and sustainability, and I really love what you're doing because you decided to do something so different and good and has a lot of integrity no matter what. And then no matter what was sacrificing so much that you almost, sorry to say this, but you almost lost a lot of important things in your life because we are so focused on work.
Yeah.
And this is, you know, part of the balance that we're looking for.
Yeah.
We have a lot of dysfunction as like professional, you know, culinarians or in this industry, you know, that we've come to accept as okay
Yeah.
or if anything we're proud of.
Yeah.
But
I'm proud of, I think. And
Yeah.
your heart's in the right place. You want to do the right
Yes.
thing.
Yeah.
You want to do the right thing by the guest. You're going to try to do something special, something nobody else is doing. You're going to try to do something that's creative, sexy, cool, fun, unique. So you're like, that's a beautiful thing. That's
Yes.
a positive,
And the
right?
integrity of your
yes,
work.
I'm gonna
Really
and I'm
stand
giving
behind
I'm
that.
giving a gift that I have
Yeah.
to others. And yeah, sure, I'm getting paid for it and everything, but it's a symbiotic relationship, right?
we're not doing it for the money.
No, there's other things I could do for money for sure that are a
Yeah.
lot easier than this. But then all of a sudden, lost in that though is, and you're doing it for all the right reasons. You're like, oh, I want to take care of my family, I want to take care of my wife, my kids, the 10 cats that eat them up.
10 cats and a dog.
But then all of a sudden
that's
you
so
lose,
cute.
you know, you're so focused on this project,
Yeah.
you're losing sight of the things that matter to you most. But you're doing the project for them,
Yeah.
for yourself, for the guests too, and everything. But so it's like, how do you come to a place where you're living in synergy, where there's a synergy, where there's a balance, a work-life balance that makes sense, and it's very, very, very hard. And I have a lot of chef friends, you know, who work at the Michelin star level, and basically what I can tell you is yes, they're the best chefs in the world. They don't know their kids. They've been divorced 3 times, but they're collecting awards at the James Baird House.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
how do you become that person that collects the awards at the James Baird House, but you're also at your kids' graduation or at their baseball game? And that is the trick, and that is really, really hard. And it can be done, but man, you got to be organized and
sane. You have to be sane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's you know, we were talking about this and how we are so proud of our integrity in our work that, like you said, you lose track of the other things that are important that you're actually working for. But you get into this intense insanity. It's crazy. We are.
Sometimes you forget why you're doing it.
Yeah, you forget what you're doing
Yes.
because you're so like, I don't know if it's like a horse freaking
Right. To get to that
blinders.
goal, to get to yeah.
Well,
And-
you touched on it a second ago. People like you and me, you know, we've worked in these places where this is how we've been trained. You look at the guy next to you and he just cut his finger and he's got the super glue out and like he isn't even going to get to the med kit
Yeah.
because he doesn't want to leave his station
Yeah.
because he's like, oh my God, if I lose 3 minutes of time here, my mise isn't going to be ready. Like, and so this is the mentality. There's nothing else important but the food and the work.
Yeah.
And so when you're trained that way, and if you're good at what you do, you've been well trained, and then you're good at being trained, you're a good worker, you're a good employee, you're a good chef, you're a great chef, then this is not hard to think this way. This is how you think. This is
We're proud
ingrained-
of it.
Yeah, we're proud of it. It's ingrained in who we are. And we feel like the people around us should support that. Why would you not support me like this? Don't you know how powerful I am? How, you know how awesome this is, whatever. And then
This is therapy for me, by the way. This is the only reason why I invited them. It's like, I'm on therapy. I gotta figure this shit out, okay? But it's true.
Yeah, no, but it's true. And so you're sitting there, you think, you're so wrapped up in it, it becomes such a part of you that you look around and you're like, how could they not understand? How does my wife not understand that this is what has to be done? This many hours, and you know I'm not coming home or
what it
whatever. Like, this is what it takes, right? And it's like, well, first, not necessarily does everybody want this. Everybody wants to, be able to make money and take care of their kids, all of that, but maybe not in this way.
See, but like, there's two types of people. Like the people that do it like the way that you two do it, and then there's people like me who are like, can't you do it differently where you're not killing yourself?
Yeah,
like,
without killing yourself.
can't
You actually can. You're trying to
Yes.
show us like a different perspective and
Uh-huh.
how to do
Yeah.
work.
No,
But we're like,
totally.
what? We don't want to be wimps. Like this
Yeah.
is
But you're not a wimp, though.
I know, but
you're
like I am
not.
just. We're figuring this out.
I
Okay?
Yeah, we're trying.
yeah,
We're trying.
I know.
We're at a place.
late in the game,
We're
but-
at a place. Yeah, we're late in the game. We're later in the game. We're at a place where we're finally starting to see some balance. But even to be really candid with the madam after midnight.
Yeah.
I mean, there's weeks where I'm like, man, I'm not. I'm upset. And I'm like, I'm not spending enough time with the food. I'm not spending enough time at the restaurant. But there's a part of me that's very satisfied. I've spent a lot of time with my kids, and they're super stoked, and everybody's happy. But I'm like, geez, how many weeks can you not spend the amount of time that you need to, or think you need to, with your food before all of a sudden it starts to affect the food, the business, the end result. And that might sound crazy. You're like, well, how many hours do you work? Oh, well, I worked 80 hours this week. Well, that wasn't enough? No, that wasn't enough. It's like, no, it wasn't enough. I needed 15 more or whatever. And it's like those 15 went to my kids, and that's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome, and I love it. But I worry, is that 15 hours now? Will that somehow translate into guests perceiving that
You don't
something
care.
wasn't as good or that I didn't care? Yeah.
There's so much guilt.
There's
there is.
There's so much fucking guilt.
Yes.
Yes, there is.
I have this like COVID forced me, I mean all of us really, to kind of step back, well, because we had no choice but to step back because we can't do business. And because I wasn't working every day, then I got to hike 2 times a week,
Yeah.
which I love hiking. To me, like, I mean, I used to be a weightlifter and I like the gym, but really I prefer to be outdoors. And to me, it was like, oh, if I go hiking, I get my exercise and I'm out there and there's nobody there. And especially during COVID, that was like one thing we could do, is to be away from people. And then business started coming back. And then I started thinking, well, do I give up my 2 days? Because those were the things that or 2 hikes a week, because I used to, in the old days, I would feel guilty to take a break to go work out or be outdoors.
Yeah.
Like literally there would be some days, 48 hours, I would not step out the door because I
Yeah.
would sleep here anyways.
Yeah.
And I'm just working the whole time. I would take 2 naps a day, 2 hours after we close, and then I set my timer, then make those, and then once I make my dose, I rest, whatever, and Frank rolls them later. When he rolls them, I would sleep for 2 more hours. So 4 hours a day, 2 hours, 2 times. And I get my 4 hours a day for like most of the week. So all of a sudden COVID like said, oh, I can go hike. And then business came back and I was like, do I go back to that? And I was like, I shouldn't. Like I
Right.
just rediscovered sleep.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's like a fucked up thing, but like it's like I still have that, but it's part of my struggle to like work my way up to that balance that I'm like searching for myself. So that's why I like hearing other people. Like last week I had these 2 guys, Chef Spike and Marcel, who were on Top Chef, and talking to them about it for, same thing. Like they had to find that as well. And for them, luckily, they were able to, because they love traveling so much, if they could include that in their day-to-day or like, the way they work, it brings back the balance for them, right? Because we don't get to go anywhere. So basically, they work and include travel in the work. They sue each other. That's what they call it. They call their system, because they've been friends for a while. Like if one of them travels somewhere and does an event, he's like, "Hey, you want to travel with me? You're my sous chef," and vice versa. But it sounds so like, oh, it's cute. That's like a sweet thing that you guys do for each other. But it's also some way to inject that balance so that you have a little bit of play. One of them kind of gets to rest that I'm just the sous chef today. But like, it's serving one of the things that they're so passionate about, right? So we just gotta find that for ourselves, like whatever it is outside of the work that we can, do to keep things fun and sustainable, and I wanted to go back to that, like sustaining it. Like you were saying the first, 2-3 years, you weren't really making good business.
No, I
right?
mean, we were for 2.5 years, it was like a fight to stay afloat,
Yeah.
to say the least. And it was a function of us, I think, undervaluing who we were and what we were doing. We thought that we were, going to do a much higher volume of people at a much lower price point. And after 2.5 years, we could just never seem to drive that kind of foot traffic into the restaurant because Paella doesn't have that, foot traffic to begin with for our clientele.
Yeah.
There's plenty of foot traffic down by the highway, but they're looking for $15 sandwiches, which is fine. And there's plenty of good $15 sandwiches down on the highway. But
But
for our
we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
yeah, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere up
Yeah.
the street, and a couple thousand feet up Baldwin, and so we were never really able to drive the foot traffic at that lower price point. And finally, we kind of had to make a decision that we were going to go out on our shield. We were going to raise the price. We were going to bring in a lot of really high-end products like truffles and caviar and bluefin tuna.
So you didn't have that the first couple of years. You didn't make
We
it
were,
so.
it was beautiful. There was like king crab and lobster tail and prime beef, but the really serious luxury ingredients, the things that cost, $1,000 a pound, we weren't bringing in. When we opened, our price point was $85 per person for a
Which
five.
is crazy
Right.
for a chef.
For five- for a
I
fi-
think it was 4, not 5.
No, it was 5, include the bread.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Holy crap.
so it was and you would get like prime beef and a lobster, and like no one was touching that anywhere. You couldn't. That meal would have been $150 anywhere else on the island. But we were like, oh, we'll draw people in, and then we'll see. And we just never really drew enough people in.
We were not only not making money, we were losing money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was bad. It was
Yeah.
bad, for sure. And so, finally, we had come to the point where that house that was behind the restaurant was becoming available to us, and we were going to either have to probably close the restaurant or take the lease in the house behind the restaurant and make some serious changes. And we
This is the third year, yeah? by
yeah,
now.
we're right, just about the third year. And we literally took a week off and sat down and had a lot of discussions and decided, all right, we're going to take the lease for a year, and we're going to make some wholesale changes at the restaurant in terms of price point and the product that we're bringing in. And literally 30 days, it was like night and day difference. And it wasn't like we got a bunch more reservations or we had less reservations. It was the same reservations we were going to have at $85. All of a sudden, it's like $150, and nobody said boo. And we were like, and then I was like, Jesus, I got
They
to be.
probably were thinking, I was like,
I
what
gotta
the
be
fuck took you so long?
Yeah, I got to be the biggest asshole on the planet that I didn't change this earlier.
Well, we did have a couple of guests tell us, "You guys are doing this wrong." Like,
Yeah,
you
we
would,
did.
Like, yeah,
We did. They were like,
you are
this is
underselling."
completely
Yes.
messed up. They were like, you only need to do a few people in here a night. It needs to be $300 per head. And, that's the clientele you're looking for. Look at this cute little room, this and that. And I was like, really? $300 per head? I was like, yeah, I can't get people in here at 85. How am I going to get them in for 300? It's like, yeah, no. I just need the people that are coming in for 85 to be this. They'll come in at 300. I didn't realize. So anyhow, we did that for like 6 months and we were making money. And I was like, see, it works. And she's like, I'm not convinced. It's only been a couple of months. And I'm like, no, it's working. Look at the bank
Yeah,
statements.
and then
It's working.
the pandemic hit.
And then the pandemic hit us. Yeah, all of a sudden I'm
Fuck us
like,
off.
what the fuck? Are you serious? Like 100-year pandemic? Yeah, and then March 18th we were closed of 2020. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
We didn't open
Seems
back
like
up until August
Holy shit, yeah.
of August of 2020.
So, no, you were closed from March to August?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when you reopened, you did the brunch.
So yeah, when we reopened, we were doing brunch 4 mornings a week, and I was making bagels from scratch.
Yes.
You know that kind of hell.
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
yeah, it was ridiculous. And then we were doing
The
dinner.
other Whole Foods
Yeah.
is the bagel. Donut is the other one.
Yeah, the hole in the head.
Oh,
Hole in our head.
Oh my
You
God,
gotta
we
have
were
a
just
hole
talking
in the
about how
head
long it
to make
takes
the whole
to
food.
do all this shit.
Yeah, people are questioning my bagels $3.25,
God,
and
ridiculous.
people were questioning the price point of $3.25 for a bagel, and I'm like, it takes me like 10 hours. You have a mixer at least. I had no
Yeah.
mixer,
Shit.
so I was
requires so much mixing.
Yeah.
Dude,
High
I did.
protein.
I needed it all by hand.
Holy shit!
All
I
by
want to
hand.
see your muscles.
Yeah, right, I know,
Oh
right?
my God! Because that's bagels are to me the hardest to mix because you need high protein.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
dense dough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to have good elasticity and everything. Yeah. So I mean, I was
Crazy.
literally kneading, and it was. I was doing 5. Like the buckets, the 5-gallon buckets that you get from Home Depot,
Yeah.
the orange ones.
Yeah, yes,
I was
I
doing
have.
5 of
That's my-
those a day. And then people would be like $3.25 for a bagel. I'd be like, are you kidding me right now?
Okay,
You'll
but
pay.
why did you choose bagel, by the way? Because you know it's hard.
Yes. So I knew it was hard, but
Because
one
you're
is
crazy. There's
one-
a hole in your fucking
There's
head.
a hole in my head. I'm crazy. I'm Jewish, so we love our bagels, of course. And then I lived in New York City for a long time, and I'm like, there's not. West Side Bagel's really good at what they do, but I don't even think they were open.
Yeah. At the time?
Back open
Yeah.
yet. So I was like, and I was thinking North Shore, there's nothing like this. So I was like, okay, North Shore.
I love it.
But the biggest thing is I felt like opening up, we needed to have something that was at a price point that people could afford, because if you remember, we had no visitors on the island. We were completely closed up, and 60% of the people, probably more than that, were on unemployment, didn't have jobs.
We had the highest unemployment in the country.
In the country, this county
It's
did,
scary.
yes.
Ridiculous.
It was
I was
scary.
like, what?
So
I've
I'm
been
like,
living in that place.
Yeah, no, it was messed up. And so I'm like, geez, you got to have something that's going to be approachable for people that are out there. They at least are going to be able to get out. I was thinking it was going to be a service to the community.
Yeah.
I might be able to make a couple of bucks. That's good.
But it's still good.
And
Giving
we're
them
gonna-
some
people
experience.
are going to be able to get out of their house, go and buy something they can afford, even if you're on unemployment. Or everybody's got $3.25. You got change in your ashtray or your car to grab a bagel, and you'll be able to get out of your house. We reset up the inside of the restaurant with couches and coffee tables and stuff. And I brought in like a big coffee machine and all this stuff. So I was like, it'll be nice for people to have like a little place to come and go. Like everybody's in lockdown forever. So it was fine for a couple of months, and then when the federal unemployment ran out, that extra 600
Yeah, I know.
that was then all of a sudden that business dried up,
Yeah.
and I was like, and I kind of wasn't hating that because I was really over making
the
dough.
bagels, yes.
I was really over
I mean,
it.
that's crazy.
And the dinners were going great though.
So it went
we were
back,
doing
like,
we were
really?
doing dinner. So we were doing the brunch for 4 mornings. I was doing it from like 7 to 1 or whatever, and then I was doing dinner initially Friday and Saturday, and we were doing the tasting menu every other Saturday. And by the way, even in August when we had opened up, that every other Saturday, and it's August, September, October, it was booked. So I was like, all right, that's cool. So we did Friday and Saturday, and Friday we were doing an a la carte menu, and it wasn't cheap, but it was like $40 entrees, $50 entrees, and like
people were happy
$20
to
apps.
go.
People were stoked to have a place to go out. There was like nothing.
You were
open.
saying you're the first fine dining restaurant that
By
reopened.
far, we were the first fine dining restaurant back open on the island. Lahaina Grill, they were knee deep in the middle of a renovation. Mama's Fish House hadn't even thought to open. Spago, none of those guys were open. Merriman's wasn't open. We were the only ones, and by ahead months, and that's only because of the scale and scope of our place, how small we are,
Yes, yeah.
that we were able to do that. So no big whoop-de for us to do that.
Yeah.
But we just kept adding nights on
Again,
to the calendar because we were doing good business, and the brunch thing had kind of dried up, and I stopped doing it. So I'm like, and
It was a natural transition.
it was totally great. It was totally great the way it happened just the way it was supposed to. And then by November 15th of 2020, I believe guests were allowed to start arriving back onto the island with some kind of minimal quarantine. And
God, I almost forget about that.
yeah, and so when that happened, we just kind of started doing. I started doing the tasting menu Friday and Saturday, and Wednesday and Thursday we were doing the a la carte thing, and we did that until January, and I don't know, maybe after the 15th of January, and then we just went back to straight tasting menu, but only 3 nights a week and only one seating at 7 o'clock or whatever.
The transition back to the tasting
Now
menu
you're
was really
the
nice.
2 seatings
Yeah.
now.
Now
Yeah.
we're back to 2 seatings.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I like how we started with 3 nights.
3 nights. It was so
seating,
nice. I got to
and
tell
then
you, it was so
it
nice.
was really nice.
It was like
That's how we discovered balance.
balance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to keep going back to that
Yes,
balance because
balance.
I mean your role, you work the front of the house.
Yes.
But besides that, obviously, you also work. You work for
She
your children.
runs
As they
runs
say.
the whole show.
Yes.
I'm like the worker bee in
Yes.
the restaurant,
Yeah.
and she helps a great deal in the restaurant, and I try to do what I can in the house, and she runs the house quite well.
Yeah, but that pandemic, I feel like it brought perspective to us, we had to start from scratch, I guess, trying to figure out how many days should we open. We spent all these months with the kids, and we really for me it was not new, but for him it was
Yeah, I love talking about, and I love talking to people who think a little bit differently, because just that reminder, that it's not what you. I define myself based on what I do for work. I rarely talk about the other things.
Do you hear that?
really.
I'm
This
pretty
is
sure those are
exactly-
his
exact
words. I was just
words that I say. I'm
thinking
like,
that in my
that's-
head. I'm like, I heard this
Yeah.
somewhere else. And
Yeah, he
this-
said
we-
it.
yeah,
I'm
he
sure.
said
I
it.
never heard you say it, but I already know
Yeah,
that you've said
it's-
it, or at least thought it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. And again, and we've talked about this at length. She's like, geez, don't you see yourself as... I'm like, I'm a lot of things, but my dad was a very hard driving guy.
I
and
was
he
raised by
defined
a
himself
tiger.
through his work.
Tiger mom.
Yeah, and where I come from, and this is very different than how Maui is. And so, when I ask that question, I'm like, what do you do for a living? Yeah. Like, what do you do? What do you do for a living? You get on, 30 years ago, you get on an airplane, somebody be like, what do you do? Especially if you're on the East Coast.
Yes.
They're like, what do you, I'm a stockbroker, or, I dig ditches, or, I'm in carpenter, whatever it is, right? And you sit there and you talk, and this is what I do, that's what you do. Okay, cool. But out here, people don't define themselves by how they make money.
Yeah.
They define themselves by, what they're into.
Yes.
Right? And that's, I guess, probably a really great way to live.
I
but-
think it's great. I
Right.
just wish I felt that way more.
Right. That's not how.
I want to define myself by my quality of life. And that includes a lot of things, not just work, how much money I make. I want it to mean different things, like how much time I spend with my family, or how my kids happy, am I happy?
Like, to me, the quality of my work is the quality of my life, right?
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to end the school year at school without getting a couple of medals at least in school. Like, you have to be in the top 3
And
of your
that's
class.
totally okay, I think, as
Yeah.
long as you're okay up here and it's
But see,
not, and you're feeling
It
healthy,
depends. Yeah, that's not part of the conversation.
But
Right.
it should
Conversation.
be,
Right.
but it should be a part of the
Right, no,
conversation.
that's not part of the
thank you.
conversation.
We need people like you to
It
remind
needs
us.
to be a part of the conversation.
And that is why we
100%.
keep talking about this, and I think it's so important, because when it's life training in a way, and this is, and it's a great thing. We're proud of it, and I think it's important to keep a work ethic. But the balance is rarely ever talked about when work ethic is involved. Like what you're saying,
Well,
if
it's about, and we've been talking about this a lot together, and I've really been trying to instill this in my kids, because I don't like what happened to me. I love who I am, and I love
Same.
my work ethic, and that I feel like I can plow anybody under the table, and I
and
I
we're
can just
proud.
go, super proud. But what I've realized is that it's always about the result. You cut your finger off to get there. Who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
Did you stomp somebody out to get there? Who cares? Are you on top? Did you get the medal? Oh, okay, good. The guests are happy. Whatever. Nobody cares. Oh, you didn't see your kids for 3 weeks? Good. No, it's about the process. The process is really what life's about. It's about doing the right things along the way. And in the end, the result should be there for you. Now, a lot of our culture is kind of based around this idea that if you're a winner, it's fine no matter how you got there.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that's really cool about Maui that is taken a long time for me to digest is what we were just talking about. When you talk to these people like, oh, I shred the gnar. That guy maybe has a lot better quality of life than me because their life is a lot simpler and it's a lot purer. There's no question. You see any of these top people, the Thomas Kellers of the world, they only went so long. They're not in their kitchens 100 hours a week right now grinding. They're 65 or whatever. No, and they haven't been for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Because if they were, they'd be dead.
Yeah.
They'd be dead. Because you can't, I don't care what anybody tells you, you can't do that. There's like an evolution, right? Or there should be an evolution. We should be evolving and getting better and getting smarter. And I'm like hiring people and letting them do things. I'm like,
How's that? That is so hard, dude.
So it's taken me forever to find somebody. I'm like, I need to find the right person. When I find that person, I will embrace them and give them all the knowledge that I have if they want to come along.
I'm looking for that person. I was like, I want so much to teach somebody.
It's super hard. What I will say is, I'm paying crazy amount of money.
Yeah.
I think finally, after 6 years, I have somebody who will pay attention to the level of detail that I'd like. That's worth trying to bring along.
Yeah.
But I've gone through, I don't know how many people were like, nope, this isn't going to be the one, this isn't going to be the one, this isn't going to be the one. But I do know that in order for me to evolve and get better and have better balance and everything else, that this has to happen.
Yeah,
and I don't want to give, I don't want that stock on Tuesday to be made by him and not me, but it's the natural progression.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I find all things wrong with everything that's right too. It's like,
of course, yeah.
It's like you touch the box with the glove, things like that, But it's like you have to let go.
You have to let go. You have to let go. It's never. It's. You got to get it to a certain level of acceptability, and then it's okay.
Yeah.
And I can assure you that every Michelin 3-star restaurant has put out a really shitty meal.
Yeah.
More than once. And,
It
stuff is
happens.
not always going to be perfect,
Yeah.
no matter what. And a lot of these places we're talking about, they have tons and tons of staff. There's no way that it could be perfect all the time with that amount of staff.
Yeah.
You'd think it could be, but it can't. So, bear that in mind as you move along. It's not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I've fucked some shit up
I
along
fuck shit
the
up.
way.
I just don't serve it. You don't know. There's no pictures.
Daniel Balud at Restaurant Daniel in New York. If they hire you and he'll walk on to your station or whatever, that is one of his tests. He'll be like,
Is it the
you
French
could be
omelet?
in garde manger or whatever, yeah. And they'll be like,
It's
make me
tough.
an omelet, and he'll stand over you
To make it perfect, it's tough.
it's hard.
I actually almost never order scrambled eggs or omelet when I go out to eat, just because I have this picture of how it should be. Even I can't make it perfect all the time. I would get lucky now and then, but it's to make it consistent, it's so hard to not brown your eggs, and it's this perfect, beautiful,
Fluffy.
and it's not your half moon.
Yeah.
We were at a fancy
Bubbly.
hotel, one of the 2 or 3 fanciest, I won't name names, but one of the 2 or 3 fanciest hotels on the island in the last
take 'em
month or
anywhere.
so.
Here, yeah.
Here on the island. And she's like, oh, I'm getting the buffet. And it's $67, something like that. I was like, fuck that, I'm not getting the buffet. I was like, I'll just get something off the menu, because she's like, oh no, they got an omelet station. I'm like, I'm not going over there to have this guy fuck up an omelet and give it to me. And she's like, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, I guarantee you're gonna come back here with a fucked up omelet. And
I didn't care. I was
And
just
they
happy
do,
that I
they
didn't
do.
have to.
so
I was just happy
so
I
it's
didn't
like
have to
back
make
to
they
it,
start
though.
sautéing vegetables and then pour the
Oh,
egg
God.
yolks in there. I'm like, that's not an omelet. I don't know. That's
I
some
know
half-ass.
exactly at least one place that does that,
And
and
I'm
I
like-
love their
I'm
brunch
like,
except for
That's
that.
not an omelet. I'm like, and yeah, it's all browned and everything. I'm like, that's not an omelet. I was like, see, this is why I do not pay $57 to get an omelet.
Well, once I put
I'm
the
like-
ketchup on top,
yeah,
it was
okay.
fine for me. I liked it.
Yeah,
I
well,
was, I was
I
But you
happy.
know what we're talking about, right?
I know what you guys are talking about, but like I said, I'm just happy I didn't have to make it.
Yes.
how I
And
am.
I love, honestly, I have some friends who were like, oh my God, like one of my best friends, she, of course, has standards as well, you know, but she's so relaxed. And I used to tell her, and I guess I haven't said this to her recently, so if you're listening, Ellen, this is for you, that she helps me kind of come back down. You know, this like my expectation in like just in general, whether it be the food itself or how things are put out there, and I'm like, what the fuck? Why did you take that picture and post it there if it's ugly? You know, things like that. It's so silly,
Yeah.
but like when you have this artistic perspective and how you cannot help but control how things should come out because it's not like I'm trying to edit necessarily. It's just that I love beautiful things. I love, and when I say beautiful, obviously it's my subjective like idea of what beautiful is, because somebody else could think and look at me and say, what the fuck is all the colors on your hair? It's not beautiful, right? To me, there's a certain look I'm looking for, a certain feel I'm looking for, like the eggs, the fluffiness. But my friend, when I go hang out with her, it's so much, I would like get mad for like a few seconds when she always tells me, it's like, oh, you're always at the right place at the right time. She would always say that, or like, oh, that's not so bad. And it's like, can you imagine if this was blah, blah, blah instead? But this is, look at how beautiful it is. And I'm like, okay. And as much as I want to disagree with her, like she reminds me. And so it's like so nice to be around people like, I had gummies. Like, I don't freaking care if it's slightly brown today. It's like just a good reminder, kind of like what we're talking about, balance. And we're so trained. And
I'm
we're
still
so
working on that.
we're
a
working
lot.
on it. We're working on it. But at least now we can finally say we're working on it. If
Yes.
you talked to me 5 years
And
ago,
no,
probably not.
yeah, no. 5 years ago, I wasn't working on it at all. I didn't want to work on it. I felt like if you were working on it, you're weak and don't have standards.
Yeah. I was so
And-
afraid to get back to the real world, and I don't have my freaking backbone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm definitely looser than I was on a lot of this stuff.
Come on, we're raised like this.
Yeah,
It's hard.
it's like learning to live again.
But
Yeah.
it's,
As
a new
learning to
person.
live again.
Yeah, no, that's
And-
a great point. I think learning to live again almost as a new person. I think you said that really well.
Yeah.
Because when it's almost like that person has to die, maybe that's a bad word, but has to
No, yeah, I totally hear you.
like because
Or maybe you just need
it's
to put it
so
away, learn to put that
put it away.
person
Well,
away,
that
like-
person
But
is
also
so
recognize
powerful.
that it's a separate, like, okay, David Goggins, he's an athlete, right? And he always talks about his past, like he went to the military, he joined the military. When he joined the military, he was like a bigger guy, you know, and lost a lot of weight. But he has this thing, like, he just set his mind into achieving, you know, his current athletic abilities. He's kind of insane. He would run for 120 miles. I mean, he's crazy. You should look him up, but it's like he's crazy. I mean, he talk about balance. I don't think the guy has balance, but
Right.
that kind of perseverance and just like sticking to it, like no matter how his feet's like fucking falling apart, he's gonna go through that pain. I think it's admirable, and my kind of people find that admirable. But it's like when I watch him, it's like I get it, but that's all you can. That's all you do now.
Well,
Right.
we want to talk about athletes with no balance. Tom Brady, no balance.
Yeah, exactly, and
And that's
Yeah.
where you wind up.
Yeah.
Well, you
That
know,
is-
so I
it
go
is.
back and forth between these two things because I'm trying to have this balance. So I read books like Jocko Willink. He's this Navy SEAL, and he's written a bunch of books, and one of them is called Extreme Ownership, and it's basically like no matter what's going on around you, you own it. So it's like if that person's your employee and they tell the guest to F off or whatever else, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Your responsibility. You had to make sure that person either wasn't on the floor, had been trained correctly or whatever.
Yeah.
Everything that goes on around you that you touch at all you should, it's basically about, it's almost like a control freak, like extreme control kind of thing, but you have to own it. And even if you know you didn't do it or whatever, you have to own it and figure out how to fix it or whatever. So that's a great way to think. But I'm trying to be water, right? Like Bruce Lee. And it's like,
He's great, and yet he's water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can only, I can only do so much, and I got to go with the flow. So, if you can, again, balance these kinds of things, I think you're in a healthier place psychologically. And in the last couple of years, I've been working a lot too on having gratitude, being thankful for the shit that I have, because it's always the things. The reason that we're like this is because we want more. But what about what we've already attained or achieved?
Yeah, and I find like I'm kind of lost here, where I feel like I have a lot of gratitude for a lot of blessings. I feel like I got a lot of things going for me. I know I'm talented. I know I have love. People are kind to me and have been very supportive. So I'm always grateful. But the dopamine shit. Like, I am a dopamine addict, and it's a true thing. And dopamine is basically it's wanting more. Dopamine is basically wanting more. It's
Yeah.
not the pleasure. It's not about getting it already. It's about wanting to get whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it is a drug, and it's something I'm trying to kind of manage myself.
Well,
And like,
because it's not being satisfied with what you have.
yeah.
So, and look, everybody.
Serotonin is being satisfied.
Yeah.
And I think I need more serotonin.
Our entire way of life is based upon more.
Yeah.
The entire, capitalism is based upon
Yeah.
more. The American way is based upon more.
Yeah.
You take a look next door, you see your neighbor, they pull up in a BMW, and you're like, shit, I guess I should have a Mercedes.
Mm.
And you get a Mercedes, and he sees that, and he's like, shit, I guess I shouldn't have a Ferrari. Then he gets a Ferrari, and so this is how we're going through our lives all day long.
I don't technically
She
agree
doesn't.
with.
She does
I
not.
hate
She
this.
she
Yeah,
doesn't.
and you know what?
don't
With
like
me,
this.
I don't get jealous of what people have. I want more for
I don't think it's like a jealousy
Yeah,
thing.
it's not a
like
jealousy
about
thing.
just,
It's
like-
it's a huge look. The reason
don't care what
why
others have.
our
Yeah.
species, the reason why our species is the most successful species on the planet, is because of what we're talking about
well,
right
I mean,
now.
we're running our world into the toilet.
Well, yes, we
doing
are.
That.
also.
Yes, we are
Yeah.
because we're parasites. We don't give anything back to the planet, and we just take. We consume, and we don't give anything back. If we could figure out a symbiotic relationship with the planet, then it would be fine. But we don't. We have not figured that out, and we're apparently a long way away. We keep fooling ourselves. Oh, we're in electric cars, so we're gonna go get nickel cadmium batteries, use big heavy
Yeah, I
equipment
know,
to
we're
go
just gonna
mine.
create a new
You
problem outside of
still create
the-
the new problem. You still got all these machines that mine this stuff have huge carbon footprints. They can't run
They
on
will have
anything
a new
other
problem.
than fossil fuels because of the power of the
We
combustion
run out of
engine.
fossil fuel, so we're gonna get our.
It's just a vicious
It's
cycle.
just it's a bad
Just a
vicious
different
cycle
version.
that needs to be quelled, but it's our nature. So we're sitting here talking about our nature and how we can adapt that nature to new ideas which is a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
But not necessarily intuitive. I think maybe it's counterintuitive for a lot of us. You maybe not as much because
Yeah.
I think you
I feel
see
like you have the voice of reason.
Yes.
That's why I put you in the middle.
between the two
Yeah.
loonies.
Between the two loonies. So I'm a loony too. I'm just a different loony with a different.
We all
all
have our
loonies.
we all have
We're all
our we all
loonies.
have our
Yeah, we're all loonies. Here.
our-
But by the way, how did you get along or find a man like him? Considering it seems like you have a different mindset. I mean, China.
Well,
comes
yeah,
down.
I think
I mean,
in
we
a
need
lot of
someone
ways
like
we're
you.
really different. Like
Yeah.
in a lot of ways we're very similar, but yes, our views in a lot of things, especially in like the wanting more and what is more for him and what is more for me, is completely different.
we come from
you
very
know?
different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did I end up with someone like him? I don't know. It just
Because I married someone like me,
Yeah.
and that was kind of like the clash.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, we come from different backgrounds. I come from like this hard driving East Coast Midwestern family. where success is born at all costs.
Yeah, you sacrifice a
and
lot.
you at work is how you define yourself and the most important thing, and and that's how you feed, because that's how you feed your family and all of that. And Paulina immigrated here with her family when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And well, I shouldn't tell your story. You tell it.
Well, I wasn't gonna go that deep. But her question was, how did I end up with someone like you? And
Yeah.
I just think
How'd
that
you
opposites
end up with a
attract.
crazy person?
I guess I don't know.
Yeah,
Balance. Sometimes, opposites do attract.
Yeah, yeah. That's probably I think a fair assessment.
definitely.
But
But
we
yeah.
are similar in a lot of ways.
Right,
We're
right.
similar. We're super similar in like our love for family,
Yeah.
like how much we care about our kids and stuff. How much importance we place on family. Although she might argue that because I'm always like, I got to go to work or whatever. But that is because I want to take care of the family.
Right,
so.
right.
So I think we're very similar in in how we.
Yeah, but I feel like sometimes he does need the reminder, like,
Yeah.
like even on his day off, he's hanging out with the family, but he's like on his phone looking at like nonsense. I'm like, hey, are you hanging out with the family or are you on the phone looking at nonsense? Like, so I gotta remind him, and then he's like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right.
Okay,
easy,
so I don't want
easy.
to keep
Omelets
you
are easy.
all night except for the omelet. So obviously we can find you in Paia, Nilo's.
Nilo's,
You have your own website, just
Yeah,
Nilo's.
nilosmaui.com.
Yeah.
NilosMaui.com.
Nilos Maui,
Instagram,
okay, sorry.
Facebook.
Instagram's at nilosmaui and nilosmaui.com on
And you're
the web.
open every
Wednesday through
Wednesday
Saturday,
through-
2 seatings, 5 p.m. and 8 p.m.
5 p.m. and 8 p.m.
Yeah, you can find us on Open Table or Resi.
Okay, I'm gonna
For
add
real-time
that. I'm gonna
table
add that on my
availability.
edit.
Yes.
Yeah. And anything else you want to share with our audience and everybody else? I'm gonna tell you later about this show, but anything else that you want to share with the audience about Nilo's, or any last words? Before we
Well,
make
we're
omelets.
certainly very grateful to still be around after 6 years, and it's been a winding, interesting road. It's been very gratifying, very painful, very humbling.
Yes.
And so we are very, very thankful to still be around, and stoked to have good friends like the Madam to have us on to talk about what we do and to vent a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I got my therapy tonight. That
Yeah.
was it. Actually, I just wanted to hang out with you guys, and then I didn't realize, you know what? I'm gonna get therapy out of this.
Yeah, we had a little therapy session for sure, a little bitch session.
No,
It was
I
good.
always wanted the two of you to talk because you two
I know,
are
'cause
very.
you already
like,
know that.
Yeah, it's scary. It's like talking to the same person.
No, like it's so funny. I've talked to you along when we hang
Yes.
out, and like the things that you say, it's like you two already talked before because you say same things that he said, and then I
Oh
tell
my
him,
God.
and he's like,
We
he's
went
like,
to see the
"Oh."
menu last night. You have to go see
Oh,
this
yeah,
movie.
You're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it.
It's
You're gonna
strangely
love it.
weird and funny, and it's
Okay, I'm
it's a
gonna
good
see
one.
it. Yeah,
You're
I
gonna
heard
love it.
about it. So
It's
it's like,
awesome.
somebody else told me to see it. So
It's
I'm gonna,
awesome.
Like, definitely
It's
put that on the
awesome.
list.
You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
I have to see it, especially right now. Like, as you know, like I'm
Go see it in
fucking
the theater.
hungry to make other things. So.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
that's-
Go see it in the theater. It's right around the corner.
Yeah. Oh my god, I saw. I did see the trailer for it. I was like, God damn.
It's
like,
fun.
You're
Super
gonna
Super
break
fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
Well, all right. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for hanging
Thank
out
you
with
very
us.
much for having us. It was inspirational and educational and emotional and and fun.
And so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, guys, if you're watching us tonight on Monday, I'll be back again next week, I think.
Yay!
Same time, and please thank you so much. If you saw my post today, I'm just gonna extend that message again. That last day for Donut Dynamite at 1246 Lower Main Street is December 24th. So come get your donuts.
make sure you get your
before-
donuts.
Make sure you get your donuts, the best there are.
There are
we
on
are.
the planet. I mean, I say some of the best, but really maybe.
My kids are gonna be sad to hear the news.
But you know,
But
what?
it's okay, we'll get some-
we'll make off
yes,
hours
of
donuts
course.
after my
Yes,
trip.
yes.
Thank you guys for joining us tonight. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Aloha to all. Bye bye.
Let your crazy come out just a little bit. I can see by how you're moving that you're feeling it. You don't have to hide it, you can't fight it, you're an animal. Everybody